let's talk about the other vice presidential candidate, Republican J.D. Vance. He got some flack for saying the country is run by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable. But he's not the only one who's concerned about the birth rate. It is in decline. And this chart shows the drop over the last 40 years in the U.S. There's a new resurgence of a movement of persons who think the world isn't producing enough children, and they want to change that. It's called pronatalism. And Sarah, is having more children a problem?
Well, it's hard for me to think that, declining birth rates or fertility rates are a bad thing, in part because that's typically associated with higher economic growth in societies, with women's empowerment and education. So it's associated typically with rather good things, right? The people who are concerned about the kind of ratio of the working population to, older populations, et cetera. But that's a question, that's a separate problem that you can solve in various ways, right? Through distributional changes, through other ways of finding to care for our elderly. And I think the other reason it's hard for me to take this really seriously is because it's hard to trust the people's motives who are making these arguments. Many of them are really only concerned about the birth rates in countries with majority white populations. There are birth rates are going up in some parts of the world, but they're not really, they're worried about declining white populations, frankly. And so that's, I think, one of the concerns I have. And then the other one is, I feel they're just trying to control women's bodies and sort of move us backwards. So those are two big concerns I have. And the third one is about the sort of environmental impact of a growing population, right? We already have 8 billion people on the planet. I mean, how many more people can we actually support? Environmental problems are caused by many things, not just population, I get that. But at some point, we have to admit that more people uses more resources, destroys more habitat, and we already have a biodiversity crisis. 70% of the world's species have declined or disappeared over the last 50 years. That's a problem.
Tara, where are you on this? Is fewer children, more children, a up or a down?
I think it definitely is something we should be concerned about. Sarah made excellent points, but it's also a point that you typically find more innovation, more economic growth comes when you have a steady replacement younger population. And increasingly, we don't have that. We have, fewer and fewer under 5 people being born, more and more people who are over 65. And so that may not have an impact immediately, but it will have an impact if that is where most of those people, those under 5s, are where eventually your innovation, your economic growth is going to come from. I think the other thing that is also true is most of the population growth by the time we reach, I believe it's 2100, will be from sub-Saharan Africa. And that's going to be a major distribution in terms of the world. Now, yes, there are ways to address that, but you also have to think about part of what Sarah said in terms of educational attainment, et cetera. If we don't make an adjustment so that there is more educational attainment, so that there is better health care in those areas, yes, that may be where more of your population growth is coming from, but what does that mean in terms of the impact on the world of that population growth?
Yeah, J.D. Vance, it's difficult to take anything that J.D. Vance says seriously, right? Hilly-billy going to Yale, come on now, okay. Now, he's trying to demonize a vast swaths of the American population, right? People, if they want to have babies, they should have babies. If they don't want, they should not. Many people cannot, even if they try. And, Tim Wallstrom was talking about this yesterday. But the situation is this, right? Yes, general fertility rates are falling across the Western world, also in Japan, also in South Korea. That's a concern for larger social security and other social service safety nets that would be under strain. But let's talk to the regressive Republicans about that. Yes, why not? Support federally mandated bills that are, focus on neonatal care, prenatal care, postnatal care, give family leave, give things that Sweden gives to their parents, right? You keep yakking about all this stupid stuff, and then, you are not actually putting your mouth where actually you are talking about, provide those infrastructure, social infrastructure with which people can have babies. Now, if you bring that up, they'll be like, oh, no, we can't do that because, of course, what if brown and black people have babies, right? So it's just completely, it's asinine. It's not even worthy of discussing. It's rubbish.
Well, I'll take a line from Walsh, and I would say, government-wise, mind your own damn business.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
On a step further, though, if this is something that the Republicans are genuinely concerned about and want to get behind, it does have some input with the economy. It does support the older population with younger workers. If that balance isn't there, then the younger workers are paying higher taxes in order to support the older people that are there. So it's going to need to be incentivized. You're going to have child support programs in place. You're going to have flexible work programs being pushed out for the American people. But I don't think it's government's role to do that.
But those are good policies in and of themselves and should be, the rationale for them should be based on things like, we want kids to be healthy, we want parents to not be so stressed out, and not because we want people to have more babies, which, as you said, is a completely individual decision.
Tara, should progressives pay a little bit more attention to this movement, though?
Absolutely, I think they should, simply because, the CDC itself has said that there is a changing population, that population growth is not the same in the West, et cetera. So I think it does deserve more focus on the part of progressives. And I also think progressives need to be thinking sort of ahead in terms of how do we work with Republicans on this issue.